we're going to give you those clips too. You can just keep them to add to this cool digital trail that you are leaving on the internet, which is so crystal clear, easier to understand than anything I've ever seen about financial advising. You are to be commended. Your TikTok channel is like taking flight, man.
Really? Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it. It's just really just kind of sound bites for them, especially the younger crowd, which they have the shorter attention span. So I thought it would be fun to try.
Yes, I like that experimental aspect. And your latest one about why use credit cards was so nice. And it grabbed me and drew me in. And then I was waiting for more, but it was like it was enough. But I was like, oh, that is so cool. Over 2,000 impressions on it.
Yeah, I was surprised at that. Well, my kid is helping me with that. I'm glad it was useful for you. Although he's 18, he says TikTok is about being controversial. So you just go out and say something, and you take a side, one way or the other, and you have to kind of be strong like that, and then you get reactions.
That's interesting you say that because that's my concept on cold calling. I got 20 seconds to make the person see value. That's how I've summed it up over the last decade of cold calling that I've exclusively done. And you take advantage of those 20 seconds. There were 69 likes on there, and that to me is huge, man. I mean, soon you're going to be in the thousands of likes.
Oh wow, well that would be cool. Yeah, it'd be fun to see that get some traction. Thank you, my friend.
Yes. What had got you onto that track? Because you do things that are creative, and I'm sure, your amazing son is helping you, but you're like a creative person. Like what made you say, hey, I'm going to put these thoughts on TikTok?
There's always like judgment we have of things, right? And at first I kind of judged TikTok like, oh, what is this, a 20-second spot that you can't really do much with it? But I just said, like, what am I resisting it for? I really just want to connect with people and help people, and let's give them some sound bites that are useful, and just to get kind of my face out there, my name out there a little bit. And if I can help someone like with the info, and that's going to make them make their decisions, and that's a win for me.
That is very good. I like that mindset. Like, what am I resisting it for? Because that's what your clients, I think, in general, or your potential clients may have a mindset of like, what am I resisting this for? Like this type of advice or listening to Max, because there may be more resistance in the community to try to change their mindset about what they do with their money, right?
Even outside money, people are always resisting anything. I met this guy at the beach. He was just a random wise person that we had a few conversations. He said, suffer or surrender. You just take it through any stage of life, right? Let life be. Don't fight with life. And then you're going to have more fun.
Well, that makes me even more curious about you, Max, because so many people fight with life. You hit on a key word there. It's like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to support this. I'm not going to support that. It's their right not to do certain things, but like very few people are talking about what they will do and what they will support and how they will be flexible. What turned you into this person? Because that's what draws me to you and has made me want to follow you, is that you seem to be kind of like a very laid back, live life, take in knowledge, enjoy new things type person. I mean, what made you like that? Have you been like that since you were that little kid?
We were all imaginative. When you're 3 years old, you're full of imagination. It gets beaten out of us, or we let it get beaten out of us as adults. We all have that faculty. What got me into this? I would say Maddie Brown. Maddie Brown is a mental fitness coach. She was one of my clients. This is something she does as her passion. Her background is important because she worked for the Suicide Prevention Center, basically manning the phone lines and talking to people who had crises, right? And then she wanted something more after doing that, because she just loves connecting with people. And then she is a mental fitness coach, and she taught me a lot of what I know. And like the things that you're mentioning that you see, like that's the me that I want to project. That's not always how I feel, but the battle between positive and negative emotions. So the positive emotions, the creativity, the imagination, the openness, that's basically all boils down to love, right? And the negative emotions, they all boil down to fear, being closed, afraid, and resistant.
That is a great thing. How can people learn about this mentor of yours? I mean, where is she? Is she online, or does she do mostly her stuff offline?
She's definitely online. Yeah. She's Coach Maddie Jane. That's how you'd find her.
How do you spell her name? Maddy Jane JANE.com.
Exactly.
Okay.
I just feel like talking to her and talking to you, like you're both remarkable people. And then going back to you, like the content you put out is just incredible. Like, first of all, you do this in addition to a full-time job, like the amazing stuff that you put out on LinkedIn. And
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's like
well,
I can't help it sometimes, man. Max, I'm thinking about that one person sitting there at their desk or maybe waking up in the morning. I'm like, I want to give them something. That's all I'm thinking about. And I just put it there. 99% of the posts that I put out, it's for that reason. I want that person to have a better day.
well, you always inspire me, and holy smokes, like you're just a fountain of constant inspiration. Like, do you think of these things? Do they just come to you? Like, wow, how does that work?
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know if I deserve all that credit, but I mean, it's like I'll be 58 this summer. All this stuff is like things that have been shared with me or I've been thinking about for a long time, or like the things I learned in the aftermath of different situations, or the thing that's happening to me a lot now as I get closer to 60, which is like amazing to me that I'm there, is like I'm seeing repeats of things.
Mhm.
And I had heard about that when I was younger, that that happens to people. Like there's nothing new under the sun. I don't take that negative point of view, but it's like there's a lot of repetitive stuff that happens in our lives. You almost have like a groundhog moment where I've been here before. And last time I took the left road, but I think this time I'll go down the right road because last time or the last two times going left was a mess.
That life experience is serving you well then. And then the inspiration, like, where did I read? Inspiration is like a daily hit you need. It's not like you just inspire or motivate someone, then you go away. I feed off it. Yeah, it brightens my day. Thank you.
Well, thank you. There was a coach or business motivator named Zig Ziglar, which you probably heard of, and you reminded me of his quote because he said like motivation or inspiration is like bathing, like we need it every day. You can't just have it once in a while.
I stole it from him, probably.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you inspired me too, Max. So the feeling is mutual. I mean, even like the message you sent me recently from Simon Sinek, is that how you say his last name? He is so amazing. And then you sent me those like 20 quotes of his. It was just I just saved that because I'm like, oh, this is really good to come back and look at. And I was happy that you thought of me enough to send me those quotes because he is definitely someone who has a great take on common sense and people first attitudes.
And that's the only way it should be, right? People first. If you think if everyone thought that way, then there would be a lot fewer problems in the world.
Yeah, that to me is frustrating that it's hard for people to think that way. I talked with a client of mine today, and he is so people centric, and I was commending him on that. And he told me a lot of his business he gets from a neighboring business because customers go there. That business sells products or services similar to his, and they come to his business saying that the other business owner was so rude. And I was just like, that is so ridiculous. That is still going on this day and time that people just think that they can open up a shop with a shingle and then treat people anyway.
The soup Nazi and the sign from Seinfeld.
You know what? I think you just gave a catchphrase to some things we're going to talk about because a lot of people act like the soup Nazi, on every level of life. Jerry Seinfeld had it right. That's a metaphor, man. I'm giving you a service and you're going to take it this way or not. That's totally upside down. And it works for a while, but those type of businesses and those type of people implode, man.
It only works in a monopoly or government or some kind of situation where you're not beholden to anybody.
Right. And people are revolting more and more publicly against those type of entities. People are tired of soup Nazis, man.
I got you. And that's the work that Maddie does, my coach. It's all positive and negative emotions. Did you know there are mirror neurons that automatically pick up the emotional register of the person you're talking to? So that if you're feeling pretty good and you walk in the room and Joe is having a bad day and lets it be known, he's going to bring you down. If you were feeling not bad and Joe was having a great day, then he would bring you up. When we were tribes, it was important to be tuned into the emotional state of your tribe, to be aware of danger and things like that. But it's not serving us when we're rubbing each other the wrong way negatively.
Wow, that is very good stuff. I had a person yesterday describe that to me as negative energy. She was telling me about someone who was giving her negative energy, and then her whole body language and her face changed as she was just expressing to me how she felt talking to this person who walked around like a sad sack all the time, just looking to dump. I don't want to condemn anybody with a bad attitude or negative things going on in their lives. That's not what I'm trying to say. But this person, that's just their MO, man. They always exaggerating what's going on with them. And then the woman told me, and it's not even true because I know how her life is. And what she says is not even true. This was a case of someone who's purposely trying to manipulate, but it's like that black cloud just follows them around, and then you feel it on you. Back to you again, you really try to do totally the opposite, and your videos and your posts are making me even more happy to read about financial advising and things. I'm just like, oh, this is really kind of good. The thing that struck me a lot as I've gotten to know you, there was one thing you told me last fall that I was like, oh man, one day I can't wait to explore that more with Max. And you were talking about that pivot moment in your life. You touched on it where you went from one zone to like a whole different zone. I think it preceded your interaction with Maddie.
What pivot would that have been? Maybe when my kids were born? That might have been a big pivot.
You had said that it was like a life transition. And I don't know if it's when you did careers, you mentioned a teaching career. And then as I was reading about you, I think you mentioned like a taxi career. Did I get that right?
I mean, yeah, definitely I've gone through those transitions, and yeah, I kind of drifted for a few years after high school, and then I did those odd jobs. Taxi driving was interesting to learn about people and learn about the street, so to speak. Then kind of fell back into school and ended up teaching English in Asia, and that's where I met my wife. She's Japanese. We were in Korea and Japan for about 12 years. Yeah, teaching English, which I learned to love teaching kids. They're just so cute. They listen well too. It's just a pleasure to do that. At the same time, I felt that it was a bit limiting because you're basically teaching the conversation every day. Like, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. And what did you do on the weekend? And it gets very repetitive. So at the same time, I knew that I hadn't learned about finance when I was a kid. My dad, when I was in my 20s, I told him I wanted to buy a condo in downtown. He said that was crazy. Well, actually, it would have been a good investment because the market did well. So knowing that, then I said, well, I never really learned about finance. I'm interested in learning about that, and ended up coming back to Canada in 2011 and started working for a big bank. And that was a great experience in meeting tons of cool people, learning about the industry, learning about finance. At the end of the day, the bank exists to do transactions and do more transactions. I felt it was very salesy oriented. So I wanted to get into what I'm doing now. And that was 5 years ago in 2018. And that I went to private practice. So in private practice, I really wanted to get to know you, what you're all about as a person, like we're talking now, and find out what's important to you. And then when I know that, I can make a blueprint for your future. It's going to create something that will help serve you. And that's really what I love to do now. It's very people focused. There is, a transaction because a product at the end of the day just helps you get from your A to B, but it's not all about that. It's about the person first and foremost.
Really, really cool. I mean, I take Uber from time to time being in the city myself, and I just love talking to really cheerful drivers. Sometimes they're just like such down to earth people, and they're able to draw out of you certain things and you're able to draw out of them certain things. It's almost like a therapy booth.
You can have some pretty good conversations with the drivers, I bet.
It's just amazing. And, I can see how that brief time in your life was very helpful to what you do now, because basically what you described is kind of like fiscal therapy.
I agree. Yeah. First of all, finances is a challenging topic. I mean, people go on Jerry Springer and they talk about their sex lives, but they wouldn't go and talk about their financial lives. The person you work with, you don't disclose your salary to them. They don't disclose it to you. So we're even more private about that than our sex lives. And Yeah. So when I ask people to share their financial info with me, it's even a step beyond getting naked, right? It's all about connecting with people. That's our superpower as human beings, is building relationships and building connections. And we need to be more connected, not less connected. I don't think it's a step up to walk down the street with your facing your phone. I think it's a step down. Interact with people and meet and greet and have conversations. That's what we're here for. That's how I see it.
Tell me a little bit about that process. How do you proceed? How does a person get prompted to connect with you? What is that process like, your way of drawing in a person so that they have that first meeting with you or that conversation with you? How do you do it so that people listening can start that process?
Everybody wants to grow, whether that growth is more money, better food, better homes, better cars. We want to travel more, we want to learn more, and then money is just part of it. And then I just like to identify that in people. And if there's a need for that, then that really is the first step, if people have that desire to grow and improve. And if they're willing to go through that process, because it's a two-way street, right? It's going to take about 4 to 5 hours of, let's say I was helping you, your time, and 4 to 5 hours of my time to go through that process and identify, here's what you need, and here are the solutions that I can help you with.
That makes sense. And like the 4 to 5 hours, that makes sense to me too. And how many sessions is that? Like, what is a person looking to do working with abundancewealthcommunity.com?
The first step would really be finding out a little bit more about what, let's say, Jenny wants. And then Jenny would do an intake form that takes about 5-10 minutes, give me an idea of some of the things that she wants to look after and improve. And then from there, I would set up a phone call with Jenny. We'd go through that. And then if we were a good fit to work together, and the good fit means willing to share information. And I can focus on those value questions, the discovery questions, what makes you tick. And then once I know that, I would make a plan for you. And this is all happening across several sessions. I want to mention there's a lot of education provided along the way. So education that would be helpful for you in your back pocket. Then the plan at that point is how Jenny could level up and go from her A to her B and improve. And then if she wanted to implement that plan, I could show her how to do that. If she just wanted to leave it everything as it was and she learned something, then that's a win. I don't charge her my time. If it just stops there, that's okay. As long as people learn something, then I feel that that's been a success.
Right. That I'm going to highlight. I want people to understand that process because it's like there's just no obstacle to saying yes to working with you and getting those things done. And then from there, it's obvious to me that the person's going to be better. Just like doctors say, their goal is to do no harm. They're looking to try to help a person improve, but at the very least, they're not going to do any harm. Your situation is almost like a financial physician.
I like the analogy. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
What can you lose going to someone for a complimentary physical exam and they know they have the credentials to give you the heads up? And then if you get the diagnosis, it's up to you then if you want to proceed and enter into a formal arrangement to get the cure. So, I mean, what's there to lose?
That's a perfect analogy. Well, I mean, there is that time investment. I think I've always got something to teach other people, so I can give them some info in their back pocket that will help them. You need that mindset to get into it in the first place. It's funny, I've met people who have $10,000 and I've met people who have $2 million. Sometimes the people who have the $2 million, they're the most anxious and fearful and least willing to share and open up.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I was walking today and I was actually thinking about that. I was having a pretty carefree day today, had some good positives, but then I was thinking, a lot of people would look at an executive who is in a high-rise building and people would look up and say, wow, look at that building. But then the person in the office is like stressed out.
They're not noticing what's going on in the street. They're preoccupied with their own problems, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm not denigrating those people, but I'm like, things aren't always what they seem. You sometimes want to be that person who seems like they're so above the fray and they want to be like on the street just in peace. Like you said, the people sometimes that have so much accessible, sometimes they just have more things that they need to worry about and they're just really, really delicate. I like that insight there.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's just that sharing that can help us unburden, and then knowing that we've got someone who's got our back. So that just tells me that we're stronger together. What I do isn't right for everybody. There's some people that they just want to do everything online, but for someone who's looking to build that connection, it's not just advisor client. We have lunch or dinner together. We go to parties together, events, things like that. So I look at my clients as my friends. I don't look at them as numbers. I don't think if you have a business, there's a difference between your business and personal life. I think it can be part of the same circle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a very good take. It gives me something to think about because we are about to step both feet into an arena where people are going to turn over their lives to robots. But I don't think it's going to be always a good thing.
Tell me more about what you see when you say people are turning their lives over to robots.
I've heard of and read about, actually haven't engaged with one, robocalling marketers. They may call a customer or a prospect who actually maybe did an intake form or actually inquired about a product. And the AI is actually programmed to have a conversation and ask questions. It can only do so much, and sometimes the prospect who receives the call doesn't even know it's a robot until a certain point. Your take is a breath of fresh air in the midst of what is going to happen, because some people are going to be like, well, at least I'm just giving my personal information in whatever arena to something that is not alive. But I think that is not something we want to normalize.
I'm just wondering how younger people feel about it, because it's more effort to have a relationship than to talk to a bot, right? Because when there's a relationship, there's something else at stake. If it's a bot, you're just providing information. You don't care about their reaction. I was reading an article about the States. People are rebelling against those self-checkouts now.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to be forced to check out their own products, which I think is great. Yeah, why should I be checking out my own groceries? Like, let a human do it for me, then I can have a conversation with a real human.
Right. Right. You made me think, because I went to a national chain hardware store last week to get something. And surprisingly, they had converted like all the checkouts to self checkout, I think, except for one. And, they used to have like 8 or 9 checkout lanes. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to this self checkout queue. And then it asked me if I want a bag. And I say, yeah, I want a bag. And there's no bag. So then I have to ask this woman with folded arms standing nearby, making sure no one walks out with stuff like where the bag is. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And she has to walk over and get me a bag. And I'm just like, what is this all about? And like the screen prompts were so foreign. It was just like they were asking for different information that was irrelevant. And I'm just like, this is not an upgrade. They're saving a couple salaries, but somebody is shortchanging their community. I saw some of the contractors walk in and the people in customer care, it's like they were saying, hey, Joe, hey, Tom. So I'm like, oh, okay, these guys are regulars coming in here. So I guess they are betting on that the regulars know what they need, come and get what they want and want to get out. But I don't usually go there. So I didn't like the experience and I don't feel like going back. They say loneliness is becoming an epidemic. So what about that person who barely has any face-to-face conversations with people during the week, and now they have another faceless interaction in a sea of people?
You hit on something so true, and I'd like to hear more from you on this, because maybe you could expand on that. I read that 20% of young people, the Gen Zs, are more comfortable talking to their friends online than in real life.
Yep. They're digital natives in the way that other people older than them are not, because I know, being in the tech field, for example, I was involved with tech for decades now, but it was like, I remember when email started to become like more common in the early 90s. It pre-existed that, but only geeks had it before that, and on these CompuServe accounts, and it was all like crazy looking. And then, American Online started to really personalize it. You got mail and all that stuff. And it was kind of more fun dial up access to it. And you would dial in to see if you had email. You wouldn't really get any prompt because there were no cell phones. What I'm trying to say is that people who are under 30 years old now, especially those who are like 20 something, they entered an age where there was email, there were cell phones, especially the 20 and under crowd. It was hard for them to imagine a life where I can't just text someone and it buzzes in their pocket.
They look at a picture of a record player or phonograph and they say, "What's that?"
Exactly, exactly. For entertainment, like a year and a half ago, I took my kids on a walk in a downtown of a suburb, and I showed them a abandoned phone booth, and they were like, "What is that?" It didn't even dawn on them that's where Superman used to change and everything. And then they picked up the phone receiver and they were just like, "You talked on this? And, what is this?" And they just started laughing. It's like getting in a horse and buggy to them.
That's so funny. Like, I like to always harken back to what are we? We're biological beings, right? Facial expressions and eye contact and sitting down and sharing food with someone. And you can't really take those things away. If you're in virtual reality, like, how is that? I don't see how that's a plus. I mean, it might be good as an escape tool, but I don't see it as a way to navigate our world. We're still flesh and blood entities, and that's how we excel. The computers are just a tool, but they shouldn't be the medium going forward for everything.
That's right. That's right. And circling back to your original thought about this, that's why 20% of the Gen Zers, can't really talk to people because it's all about like acronyms and that they're typing. It's not even whole words. They don't really use cursive anymore because they don't really have to, even to the point where I read that Braille is becoming almost a thing of the past because people are just using digital voice readers. I guess that might be a good thing, but then if you have no electricity, you're like kind of messed up. But it's going to be dangerous if people don't really know how to talk and are afraid to like verbally have an interchange with someone. They want it all to be like behind walls, digital walls. That's not a good thing.
Totally. Did you ever see the movie Wall-E?
You know what? I've only seen clips of it. What is your synopsis? What are you tying in?
Well, it just got this orbiting platform around Earth where the computers do everything for people, and the computer won't even let you raise your arm to sip your drink. The robot arm brings it right to your mouth, and I just thought it was such a good satire. Like it, because that's really like some of the direction it seems to be going. My friends, they use car navigation all the time, but they use it for the place they go like 3 or 4 times a week, and they actually don't know how to drive there without the car navigation.
Wow.
We've got this brain, we've got this tool. I think we need to use it. Computers are amazing, and I use them, 10, 12 hours a day, but I don't want to rely on it. Like you said, same thought there.
One thing I'm learning as I get older and stuff, Max, it's like it's so good to be out in nature. It's so good to be like walking. It's so good to not always be going from office chair to car, back to home couch, then to bed. We shouldn't be in a constant state of like sitting down. The interaction with people that I care about, that's what makes me happy. People who are appreciative of me and I'm appreciative of them, whether it's like personal friends, colleagues, or clients and things. That's what makes me happy each day. It's like dealing with people who have appreciative mindset. They're not always happy all the time because sometimes things are happening in their lives. But to me, that's what my life revolves around by choice.
What are some tips you'd have to help make us more appreciative of each other and have better conversations?
You have to be intentional about it. Like they say, if you want to have a friend, be a friend. So part of it starts with us. Like, how am I going to show whoever I interact with today that I appreciate them, even if it's not a conversation, if they're just rendering me a service or I'm rendering them a service, is there something I can say or do, not have any expectation or anything back. But then with the people that I do have long-term friendship relationships with, I'm always open to like, what can I say or do that will encourage them while I'm talking with them based on what comes up. I'm always looking to add to a situation, like they say in a lot of songs. I think you hear this refrain in a lot of songs, like give more than you take. That's just my mindset. I'm not like doing the thing that we do sometimes, just walking away like, yeah, have a good day, and just using these statements, whether it's a child with their parent, I'll say something to the parent about how good the child is acting. It's fun. a prospect who's not interested or whatever, I never end negatively. They gave me their time. I'm appreciative of their time, and I thank them for it and say, maybe we'll run into each other down the road. And they're always taken aback because they expect me to come back with some negative thing if they're not interested, and they give me a hard no. I'm like, that's their right. In addition to that, I stay away from people who are just trying to be negative. It's like, I don't have time for that. What's your approach?
It's funny because it's so much like your approach. What you're doing is amazing, like approaching personal interactions without expectations and trying to brighten their day. I think that's something we can all do. Part of my journey in trying to be happier is getting out of my own head. I'll just say things to strangers. Well, not to use that word, but people I don't know. And because, if I have a thought in my head and it's coming from a good place, I will share that. And I won't care how it sounds or how it feels or worry about looking embarrassed. And I think people are really appreciative. The people you talk to, Gene, they probably want to say something too, but there's something holding them back. And I think they're very appreciative that you're sharing those little nuggets with them.
Yeah, yeah. That's what attracted me to you, because I can see that even before our conversation here, I went back and reviewed a lot of the interaction that you had on some of my posts, because you always leave such nice comments, on things that resonate with you. That always encourages me, like, thank you for this pointer. It made me think of this. You didn't have to say anything, but you did. Some people suffer from extreme shyness, and they may be listening to this and saying, I wish I could do that. And there's certain conditions where certain people just have a reluctance, but it's always great when we can cross that barrier and not have let that transaction go or that moment go with something unsaid that could have made a difference.
Oh, that's so true. In the end of the day, all we have is a moment. We don't have that past because we can't go back there. And we certainly don't have a future because you can't count on things. So we just have this moment. I think it's this capitalist society that we're in. Not that I disagree with capitalism, because I think it's very helpful in moving the world forward. But just, it's like, what can I get out of it? What's in it for me? And that's driving a lot of the one-sidedness in our world. At the end of the day, you will do business and you will try to grow your own. But if we thought about growing others first, it would just happen naturally.
That's why I'm very confident that Abundance Wealth Community, it's already something of value, but I just see you like breaking barriers, Max, of mindsets and drawing a huge following of people that want to be part of the tribe that you're building. You're going to have to replicate yourself because you're not going to have enough time to take care of all these people.
I would love to get to the state actually where I can sort of take on some help. Of course, that's an expense that's going to be like $3,000-4,000 a month per person that I take on. And then that would free me up to really just talk more to people, because that's really what I love to do. I don't want to spend my time in paperwork. So I would like to be in that situation where I can just talk to people all day and help them with what's important to them.
The dam is about to bust, and I mean that in a good way. It's going to happen fast too. So you get ready. You're a get ready type guy. I'm approached by a lot of people and I hear a lot of stuff in this arena, and it's such a turnoff. I used to be in the financial industry as far as insurance and things. I really love that consultative type selling, but there's a bunch of people in it that are just like so aloof, man. That used to really turn me off, that they just somehow have this mindset of superiority, and they're helping people, quote unquote, that need their empathy, and it's not always there. That's why I did so well, because people said, hey, you're different and you have the great mindset that I think is necessary for the common person, whether that person is a millionaire or like someone who just has a few $100s to their name. It's going to be what you envision it to be. It's going to be really amazing.